Hello and welcome back to The Rundown. My name is Carla de La Paz.
And my name is Katerina Koteska.
In this week's episode, our producer James Hurley went out to Melbourne's very first esport convention. Katerina and myself tried rock and roll and salsa dancing.
We have a look at the highly successful sequel Incredibles 2 with Caelum. Our sport reporters Mitch and Caelum join us to talk everything footy, finals and final predictions. But first, let's have a look at the news headlines. A new study has found that a superbug has been spreading through Victorian hospitals. There have been three new strains of a superbug that have been discovered in hospitals, leaving the sickest patients at risk of life-threatening infections. Researchers have found a multi-drug resistant bacterium in numerous hospitals in Victoria and around the world, with some strains in Europe resistant to all known antibiotics. Lead author Dr. Jean Lee says the bacteria found on the skin of all humans can enter the body on medical devices and form a coat that protects it from antibiotics and the immune system. The current guidelines for treating infections use a combination of these two major antibiotics because they have been thought to protect one another against developing resistance. The inappropriate prescription of antibiotics is a contribution factor to the rise of superbugs. 1 in 4 antimicrobial drugs were inappropriately prescribed in Australian hospitals, and half the prescription given in nursing homes were inappropriate, according to research done by the Australian government. Professor Howden said hospitals need to do more to monitor and prevent the spread of the superbug. At this stage, there is not known how many people have been infected by the superbug and whether there have been any deaths.
China's cybersecurity regulators have officially censored the ABC website for allegedly breaching the country's internet rules and regulations. Chinese users are now blocked from using the ABC app or website, and the reasoning behind the sudden ban is still unknown. However, numerous requests for clarification by the ABC have been sent out. An official response from the Office of Central Cyberspace Affairs Commission dictated a statement to the ABC not too long after, stating that China's cyber sovereignty rights shall be maintained towards some overseas websites violating their laws that could endanger state security and damage national pride. As to how ABC violated such laws is a mystery, as Chinese officials refuse to give reasoning behind the sudden ban, with government departments stating that they have the right to take technical measures to block dissemination. Access to other major Australian news sites such as SBS and News Limited have been unaffected by the ban. However, Prime Minister Scott Morrison has already spoken out on the issue and claims it's an issue out of federal government's control.
Labor has launched a multi-million-dollar plan to get students from disadvantaged and rural areas into university. The $174 million will be tailored to specific groups and geographic areas in constellation with universities, TAFEs, and non-for-profit groups and communities. Labor says the plan is part of a $10 billion education funding package and is fully funded by tough decisions by cracking down on negative gearing and corporate tax cuts. Shadow Minister for Education Tanya Plibersek has told Sky News the move will help prepare future students for a world where most jobs will require a TAFE and university degree. Thousands of Australians have supported a push to collect a 10-cent levy per litre of milk through supermarkets to support farmers being hurt by drought. A Queensland dairy farmer collective is calling on Australians to shell out more loose change for milk with a 10-cent levy per litre to go directly back to farmers in drought. The Queensland Dairy Organisation has begun an online petition to have the levy imposed through their major supermarkets. Over 10,000 people had signed the Change.org petition 7 days after it was established by the QDO to help farmers cope with the soaring cost of grain and fodder for milking cows. The petition calls on Coles and Woolworths to collect the levy by increasing prices and for milk processors to guarantee to pass the full amount back to farmers. Woolworths says it has raised more than $7 million for rural aid to assist farmers, while Coles said it had contributed about $11 million in donations, grants, interest loans to farmers and rural communities affected by the drought.
New data shows that Australia's love for the drink has significantly decreased, hitting a 55-year low. As quoted by the ABC, the Australian Bureau of Statistics' latest report shows that in 2016 to 2017, the total booze consumed by people over 15 was the equivalent of 9.5 litres of pure alcohol per person. Michael Thorne, CEO of FAIR, Foundation for Alcohol Research and Education, found numerous reasons behind the drop and claimed that it's the younger generation that is leading the change. ABC recently conducted a questionnaire, and some of the recipients claimed it was all too expensive to indulge in an alcohol beverage, considering all the other responsibilities people face today. whilst for others it was about maintaining a quality of life and staying healthy. ABS Director of Health Statistics Louise Gates said this is the lowest annual figure since 1961, and it continues the recent downward trend, which started around 2008 and 2009, and the figures are continuing to decrease.
That's quite a surprising story. When I read that, I was so surprised. I didn't think our alcohol levels were that low.
I didn't either, but it's I think it's a good thing that alcohol levels are sort of lowering, because people are taking more precautions when it comes to their drinking.
And I think a lot of it is to do, like, I don't drink because I have to drive.
Yeah, obviously.
So I think the laws are toughening up on drink driving and people don't want to risk it.
Yeah, and it was interesting when I mentioned before about the ABS study, a lot of people were just saying that they couldn't actually afford to drink anymore. Like, you have so many responsibilities. I mean, you drive, people are paying rent. It's extremely expensive these days. So, what am I trying to say here? It's definitely difficult.
Yeah, it is.
To, I guess, drink a considerable amount of alcohol. But then I also really relate to the health-related things, because we got to look after our bodies, because, I think there's...
People are very health cautious these days.
People are very health cautious these days. I think the health-related...
health is a big thing these days. And speaking of a healthy lifestyle, this week, you
Yeah.
and I put on our dancing shoes and headed down to Two's Company Dance Studio, where we put on our dancing shoes and attended a salsa and rock and roll dance class.
It was pretty cool.
It was an interesting experience, so let's have a look at how it went. This week, Carla and I put on our dancing shoes and joined a rock and roll and salsa class at Two's Company Dance Studios in Epping.
My name's Steve Octagon, and I'm the proprietor or owner of a dance studio in Epping called Two's Company Dance Studios. So Two's Company, it means two people. That's why we call it Two's Company. So we will teach anything that involves two people dancing together. So that would be ballroom dancing, tango, rock and roll, swing, salsa, cha-cha, anything with two people, we will teach. People lose the ability to express themselves. They get trapped in their everyday life, work, families, mortgages. And so this is a way that people can express. So teaching people to express through music, physically, is probably the most enjoyable part. People don't give themselves enough time to learn how to get that expression. And that takes a bit of time to be able to dance the way you wanted to, the way you envisaged before you came here. Or if you went out dancing and you saw somebody in here, I love the way they dance, I'd love to dance like that. Be gentle, give yourself time. So we have a little bit of a gap in the teenage area, which is probably dominated by hip hop. So teenagers go, why am I going to learn this? I'm never going to use it. But you do use it, or you wish you had it. So we miss out a bit in the teenage areas.
I had so much fun with that.
I loved it.
Like, it wasn't what I expected, but we had fun in learning.
Yeah.
The thing is, I've never done a salsa and rock and roll class before, so I didn't know what to expect going in.
Yeah.
But you have.
Yeah, I have. I mean, salsa, I'm not an expert at it. I feel like if you do it in your room, like, you're not exactly a salsa expert. But what I really liked about this class is that when I was going in, I thought that it was just going to be a pure salsa class. But the fact that we also learned rock and roll, which I have never done and I don't think I'll ever do again because I wasn't great at it, but I enjoyed the experience, and I think it was a really good idea that you set it up, because you set it up for us.
Yeah.
And I loved every moment of it. I think it was so much fun. And you get to sort of interact with people. There were so many people that we don't know, do you know what I mean? But it's good to sort of get out of your comfort zone and kind of dance with someone that you're not entirely sure who they are, but it was really cool. It was really fun.
I think you just don't expect to walk into your first class and become a professional. It's not easy, and I think you need to get the hang of it before you have fun, or else you're going, oh my God, what am I doing?
Definitely.
But I'd recommend it if you wanted to try something new.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but like Steve said, there's a gap in the teenage area. So in that class, there was many older people, and they go to do it for recreational purpose, get away from what they normally do, their mortgage, and just meet new people and make friends.
Yeah. But speaking of teenagers and trying something a little bit new, you would know that Melbourne held its very first esports convention over the weekend. The gaming tournament brought in some of Australia's leading gamers competing in competitions based on the world's most popular games, including Overwatch and the League of Legends finals. Our producer James Hurley went down to Rod Laver Arena to check it out, so let's take a look.
Hello, my name's James Hurley and I'm at Melbourne's first esports event to see games such as 2K18, Overwatch, Fortnite and Super Smash Bros. Let's check it out.
Esports have finally made their way to Melbourne, with the JB Hi-Fi sponsored tournament being hosted at Rod Laver Arena. Of the video games being featured, Overwatch drew the largest crowd, with people piling in to see teams such as the Sydney Drop Bears, Kanga Esports face off in a variety of game modes.
Having this event is a huge step forward for esports in Australia. It's been growing and growing year on year, but having such government sponsorship to have the event at Rod Laver and Market Court Arena really means that a lot of people can attend and a lot more people will be aware of the event, which is so key for esports to grow awareness.
Honourable John Erin, Minister for Tourism and Major Events, announced a 5-year deal for the Melbourne ESports Open, expected to bring in a staggering $25 million over the course of its run. Due to the sudden and meteoric rise in popularity of esports in recent years, it may surprise a number of people to know that the Open is a fully featured sports event featuring live stream with play-by-play commentary from video game experts.
Esports here, but low Esports-specific venues is a really good idea for Melbourne. Using Rod Laver is fantastic, but it is a bit big for some of the smaller events. The AFL has looked at doing some things at Etihad Stadium, looking at building their own studios where they could have some esports events, and I think that would really be a good size for an event for most local competitions.
The Open is not only an esport venue, styling itself as a kind of E3-like, with parts of the Rod Laver Arena complex also hosting a casual gaming section featuring new and up-and-coming games such as Spyro Reignited Trilogy and Activision Spider-Man, both due to release later this year. There's also a PSVR demo section, another one of video gaming's resurgent technologies.
Well, if you go to an esports event for the first time, what you'll notice is it's just like going to a traditional sporting event. The crowd is just excited for their favourite teams, and there's that partisan vibe you get when the home team is playing. It's a really exciting atmosphere. It's just that everyone's a lot younger, and there are still some families and stuff going, but getting that young audience is what esports has over traditional sports in a lot of ways.
The Open's atmosphere outside the competitions is relaxed and carefree. Just like any pop culture convention, you can try out some DDR with passers-by or hang out with some wandering cosplayers. The entire venue is open to people of all ages, so if you're looking to chill out and play some games, the Open might just be the place to be.
I'd like to think we'll get some Melbourne fans supporting this event over the Sydney one. IEM Sydney is a very big event, but it is only for one game, and the Victorian State Government has said they want to make Melbourne Australia's esports capital, and obviously as a Melburnian I'd be all for that.
Hello, my name's James Hurley and I'm at Melbourne's first esports event, which includes sports such as Fortnite, NBA 2K... And that is it.
This is James Hurley, The Rundown.
That's perfect.
So I actually went with James over the weekend to the esports convention, and I've got to say it was a lot of fun.
Was it?
I actually really enjoyed it.
It looked like it was such a big thing. I didn't know esports was that big.
Yeah, esports is massive. It brings in a lot. It brings in millions and millions of dollars. But I think one of the biggest things that I enjoyed while I was there, they had like a little JB Hi-Fi game zone where you were able to go play some video games. They had Spyro, they had FIFA, they had Tekken, which I'm a huge fan of Tekken. I loved it. I was there the whole time being like, but yeah, it gave you a chance to wind down and enjoy some games. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, do you have anything that you know about esports, or are you completely blind about it?
No, I'm not completely blind. There was an article where it's being pushed to get esports into the Olympics.
That would be cool.
It would be, because it give people opportunities that never thought they'd go to the Olympics. The president of the Olympic Committee says esports are too violent to be part of the Olympics, so there might be a big backlash if they do agree to get it in there.
Yeah, well, I was reading up that apparently at least 40% of Australians are spending their time playing video games now, and I'm pretty sure parents are now paying to have their children, train their children to become professional esport gamers, which I think is hilarious because it's so strange. Like, how can you expect your child to be?
It's gone from like a hobby that people don't approve of necessarily because people spend too much time on them to something so big.
Yeah, but I think it's really awesome, you know, that like the younger generations now, they're striving for something completely different that like when I was younger, I don't think I wanted to grow up and become a professional gamer, but the fact that times are changing now and this is what kids want to do. So, yeah, I think esports is really cool. I think that it was a good move on Melbourne to sort of bring it over here and give our Melbourne gamers something to celebrate.
It was really great. But speaking of big screens, Callum's reviews the highly anticipated successful movie Incredible 2. After a 14-year hiatus, the heroic animated film returns in a sequel that many believe in many ways surpasses that outstanding original. Let's have a look at Callum's review.
Hello and welcome back to the 2 minutes movie reviews here on the Trove Live, and in this second episode we'll be looking at the sequel to the much loved original from 2004, The Incredibles, which is of course The Incredibles 2. Now, The Incredibles 2 takes place directly after the events which concluded the first, and it was great to see that the Underminer was utilised in a very good way. I think that after 14 years I was glad to see that they didn't just brush him off and I guess start some new plot. I was glad to see they involved him, and it was a great action scene, and that led into the the main plot of the movie, I should say, where Elastigirl is recruited by a character voiced by Bob Odenkirk, and you may know Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul, but his character, I believe was named Winston Dever, he recruits her to fight crime and prove that heroes aren't all bad, and whilst doing that, sidelining Mr. Incredible, Dash and Violet, in a plot that I didn't expect to see. But now that I've seen it twice now, I'm very glad to say that it worked wonders. I mean, they had 14 years to prepare a main plot and they went with this one and it worked. It turned up trumps. Now, the action scenes in this movie are what make this movie so good. Along with the plot that they chose, that was great. That's 50% of why I love this movie. But the other 50% were the action scenes. They were superb, especially all the ones involving Elastigirl in the first half to 2/3 of this movie. They were really good, and there's one in particular involving a room with a lot of flashing lights that was just stunning, absolutely stunning. It didn't feel like a Pixar movie, it felt like a big budget live action movie. So that will conclude this week's review of a movie, the 2 minute movie reviews. We'll be back next week with a new movie. I don't know which one just yet, but I've got a couple of ideas in mind, so I won't spoil anything for you. But thanks again for watching, and we'll throw back to you guys in the studio.
So if I'm not mistaken, I believe The Incredibles 2 became the first animated film to cross about $600 million in the box office.
Yes, it did really well.
Which is an incredible achievement, and I've heard it's a really good film, which, I mean, you would expect. We waited 14 years for the second film, so I would hope that it's really good.
This was a movie great for older people because they grew up with the first one, and the younger generation. I think it hit everyone's park.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel really bad because I loved the first Incredibles film, but I haven't seen the second one yet. I'm not a true fan. I've let everybody else down. I just haven't had the time to go to the cinemas. I used to love going, and now I don't have the time anymore.
Well, this one is funny. It's great. They kept it with the graphics and with the animation to the first one, so it wasn't too far ahead in time. Yeah, and it looked really well done.
And that's really good because even when The Incredibles first came out in 2004, the animation even then was just amazing, and it's probably even better now. But speaking of The Incredibles, who's your favourite Incredibles character?
Baby Jack. He's just so cute. What about you?
I'd have to say Edna Mode.
Oh,
I love
she's hilarious. I love it too.
She's the best. Always my favourite line is the "no capes" line. I think that's the best line. But she's the best character in there. She's so sassy and she's funny. And like you said before, adults can really appreciate Edna Mode's humour because she's just a ball of laughs.
What I've really enjoyed about the second movie is they've sort of reversed the roles.
Yeah.
So Helen's gone out and she's the main character sort of in this one.
Ah.
And you see Bob staying at home with the kids.
That's really cool.
So they gave it a 2018 spin to it, which is really well done.
Yeah, and really relevant. That's actually really cool that they did that, and they've kind of put a little bit more focus on the female character. Do you know what I mean? Because usually you don't get that in film, so it's really cool to see that shift.
I think
but I think now it's time for the sports segment with Mitch and Caelum. So let's check it out. I got stumped because I saw you. So hi guys.
Welcome to the studio.
How have you been? What have you been up to this week?
Busy week. We went out to the Latrobe Agora and asked a few Latrobe students and residents how they were feeling for this week's finals, and we got some good responses, didn't we, Cal?
We sure did, and it was good to get a variety of different answers and just to see how many people had different opinions about the first week of finals, which is sure to be a cracking set of matches.
Yeah. Well, speaking of what you guys went to go out and spoke to some Latrobe students, I think we should check it out. So I think we've got it right here. So let's check it out.
Hi Latrobe footy fans, it's Mitch and Caelum here, and we've got a big week to kick off September. Cal, you looking forward to it?
I sure am, and I can't wait to ask what the AFL public think of the first week of finals.
Let's find out. Who do you go for?
Follow North Melbourne.
I believe you're a North Melbourne fan?
North Melbourne Kangaroos fan, yep.
Unlucky, but who will you be following in this year's finals?
Look, I'm pretty excited about Melbourne.
Coming into September, who's your pick for the flag?
The Melbourne Demons, team that hasn't really had a lot of finals experience over the last few years, so yeah, I'd like to see them do well. Christian Petrarca, Clayton Oliver, Maxi Gawn. I reckon they're going to have a big couple of matches, and Tom McDonald, of course.
Not Richmond. Probably the D's. Back in the D's.
These are a popular choice.
I just don't want to see Geelong win.
No, not too happy with that answer.
Us. It's us. Honestly, it's us. I reckon. Watch us. Mighty Pies. Come on. Bring it home.
I'd really like to see GWS win.
GWS? Yeah, they're my tip too.
Oh, Geelong, easily. But if I'm not being biased, I would say I can see Richmond going back-to-back, unfortunately.
Tigers.
Tigers, you're a bit of a Tigers guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Tigers man. It's Tiger time.
It's Tiger time. It's Tiger time, is it? Great.
I can't see anyone beating us on the G, mate. Can't see 21 in a row on the G, mate. Can't see. It's like I said before. It's Tiger time.
I get the feeling Richmond, but from the way they've been playing the last few weeks, like they're definitely not unbeatable. So maybe Richmond or Collingwood.
Probably be the Tigers. We'll get up there again.
Any dark horse?
No. I reckon it'll be definitely the Tigers again.
Not even the Pies?
No, sorry. No good.
Well, you got the Hawks round one. You reckon they'll pose any threat?
Nah, look, I reckon there'll be 100,000 people there. Probably about 70,000 by half time. Only the Tigers will stick around for the second half.
Pack G, it's going to be unreal.
95, 100,000?
Be good. It'll be good. Big one.
Oh, for sure. 90,000 plus.
Oh, at least 95, I reckon. If they don't get 95 to the ground, I'll be disappointed as a neutral fan of that game. And I think the AFL would be disappointed at anything less than 95,000.
Did you hear that, Gillen? 95,000 or else?
95,000 or else I'm coming for you, Gil.
I used to follow Geelong, but I don't know. They kind of sucked. But I guess they're in the finals, so that means they're good.
They finished 8 out of 8.
Okay, then them.
Thank you, guys.
That was a really fun and cool story, guys. I really enjoyed it. It was some great input from some of the students there. I noticed that Richmond was the team that kept popping up as the students' favourites. So they must be the team to beat. So how do you reckon the Tigers are going to go against the Hawks at the G tomorrow night? Do you reckon they're going to win or not?
I think they're definitely the favourites, and understandably so. They finished top of the ladder, and a couple of guys said that they don't look unbeatable, but they have been pretty much that throughout the whole year. But Hawthorn will pose a bit of a threat. I think that they've been really good in the last few weeks. They're in the top 4, and no one really expected them to make top 4. I think they're a side that was supposed to be in a bit of a rebuild, and they've just surpassed all the rebuilding process and just gone straight back into premiership contention again. But having said that, I can't go past the Tigers to win tomorrow night. I think in front of all 100,000 Richmond fans, I think it's going to be just too much for the young Hawks. What about you, Mitch?
Yeah, I think when you talk about the 21-game winning streak at the G, that's always something that's going to come into a factor. You talk about how big the crowd is. They love playing in front of a big crowd. But I think their last 3 wins in that streak were probably the three worst wins in that streak. I think it was totals of 3 points twice and only 8-point wins. So while they are wins, they are probably some of the worst performances they've had throughout the season. So not the form they want to go in during the finals. But I think it's still going to be a good game, and they're still my tip.
And what about the other matches this week? I'm pretty sure the Cats are also playing. Is there anyone in particular that you're confident will win between those games running this week?
Well, for anyone out there who doesn't know, Melbourne's playing Geelong on Friday night, and then Saturday afternoon or Saturday at twilight, you've got the Sydney Derby, the Battle of the Bridge between Sydney and the Giants. And then on Saturday night out in WA, you've got West Coast taking on Collingwood. And Friday night's going to be a big game for your Cats, isn't it, Mitch?
Absolutely. I'll be attending. I'll be in the members, and I have no idea which way the game's going to go. Unfortunately, I think we're going to lose. Melbourne have looked really good. I think the last few weeks when they knocked off the Giants, they probably put in the best performance they've had all season. Really strong attacking team, and Geelong have been the best defensive team all season. So it's going to be a cracker. Probably not as big as the game on Thursday night, which will be good. But I think you look at all 4 games, and each one of them, they're going to be hard to pick. You talk about the Battle of the Bridge as well, which is it's always fun to have a derby in the finals. My tip's GWS, and I think they're going to take it the whole way. But it's going to be a cracker. Who do you see for that Sydney GWS team?
I'd have to go the Swans. I think that they've just been too strong throughout the year to not at least see them make a semi-final. And with GWS's injury list piling up now, I think that they're going to go into the game as favourites. And I'd be surprised if GWS did come out of that game with a win. I mean, they do have the players to be able to do so, but I think that the Swans will be too strong and that they'll be able to get into that semi-final to play either the Eagles or the Pies. Speaking of that match, who do you reckon will get up?
Look, travelling to Perth's never easy, especially with West Coast finishing second. Fantastic year, and obviously with all the injuries coming back, we talked about that week off. Obviously, GWS get their players back, but the West Coast Eagles, I think earlier today, Adam Simpson said Andrew Gaff was back in training. It's really lifted their hopes going to finals. And you talk about obviously Josh Kennedy, star full forward, so they'll be really healthy coming into the first game. And obviously, a Melbourne team going across is never easy, but the Pies this year have really surprised a lot of people.
In relating to AFL news, there's been outrage after scalpers were selling AFL final tickets online at an inflated cost. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm personally not a huge fan of it. I don't like the concept of scalping. I think that once you get the ticket, you get it. That's your specific ticket. And I can understand why people do it. I mean, if you do it sneakily enough and if you do it outside of the law, depending on what area of the world you're in, you can definitely get away with it and make a bit of money. And I can see why people do it, but I guess I just don't like the concept of, buying low, selling high and skimming the market, so to speak. Again, I can understand why people do it, but as someone who often gets tickets to finals and just go to the games rather than trying to sell them to fans of clubs who have missed out, I just think, once you get them, you go. And, if you give it to someone else, you give it to them, for no charge.
Yeah, it's really unfair. They're preying let's say, West Coast Eagles fans who haven't been in the final since 2006. And people just go for it because they want to be there. But scalping has been around for other events. They've done Ed Sheeran's concert at the start of this year. People were going to the door and they wouldn't let them in because their ticket wasn't valid.
Yeah.
And it's been done before in the footage. Maybe not at a markup of $500, but it's not fair.
It really isn't. And I think you say $500 was the price that some people paid for these tickets, but I think some tickets have gone up to $1,500 or so for some of these tickets, haven't they, Mitchell?
Yeah, I think that was the record that some were selling for Friday night's game against Melbourne and Geelong. And you talk about music, obviously I think ones like Falls Festival, they sell out in probably 20 seconds. So people try and buy about 8 for themselves. Unfortunately, sell them for 20, 30, 50% markups. And even Friday's game, I think you're looking at nosebleed seats for almost $250, which is really annoying because, the diehard fans are sometimes the ones that can't get their hands on the tickets and they're the ones missing out compared to ones who are just trying to make a bit of profit. But I think the AFL's just got to lock down on it a bit more. They brought in the laws, I think, 12 months ago for last year's grand final, but they haven't really done it for all the other games. So really, all the games leading up to the final, the fans or whoever can get the first hand on the tickets really has the advantage. But unfortunately, it's just the grand final tickets that they can't. It's just the grand final game that's really getting locked down. So unfortunately, at the moment, people are having to look at high prices. But hopefully, the AFL can look into that for next year.
Yeah, and it really does diminish the concept of the game because you've got all these diehard fans who follow the club for so many years, and then you've got people who just want to take that emotion and use it against them to make themselves a spare dollar or so. So it's a really sad sight for the game, but hopefully the AFL can do something to sort it out.
Yeah, definitely unfair. But thanks, guys, for being here. It was really interesting to hear all things AFL. We'll speak to you probably next week as well.
Yeah, they'll be back next week with more in sports. But that's all for today. And you can join us next week for breaking news, entertainment, and more in sports. Goodbye. Bye.
Go Tigers! Yay! Gotta get it in there.